Good day to one and all. This is Dr. Sivaraman of iknowindices.com. Hope you are able to hear me fine. Let me display the PowerPoint presentation. Good day, Sandra. Asian session live market analysis on November 8th between 5 and 5:30 GMT. So it is a simple market tracking technique using the live market code page. Let me give the link for the same. You can open it in a browser. Now I am fixing the camera over that of the live market code page. You can see the codes. Euro is currently trading around 1.3954, 1.3956. The low is 1.3920. The high is 1.4088. They made a very big volatile move to start with during the early European session, and currently you come across 76 pips negative net change in the case of Euro. After Friday close, they made a quick gain, and from there they dropped it in one go, and subsequently they are holding it closer to that of the low. And in the case of GBP, 1.6125, 1.6129 are the current levels, 1.6106 is the low, 1.621211 is the high, 55 pips negative net change is seen. So here again in the case of GBP, on Friday they have been holding it very firm when compared to that of Euro in order to drop Euro GBP, and subsequently they have dropped GBP as well. So it is a weak beginning, the second week of the month. So obviously you could come across a weak beginning false move. They are done during that of the early Japanese session, and they are expected to reverse from here. Then in the case of USD Yen, 81.20, 81.23 are the current levels, 81.15 is the low, and 81.42 is the high. You come across 6 pips negative net change. When Euro GBP as well as USD Yen show negative net change, we know that they are trying to do the contrarian move. As a result, you come across Euro Yen and GBP Yen, they are also showing negative net change. They made the drop. So whatever you come across when they are making a contrarian move, and that is a false move. That means when they have dropped Euro Yen and GBP Yen, that means they wanted to gain the levels during the rest of the day. So that is how we should be able to assess their intentions from time to time. Then in the case of CHF, USD CHF, 0.9657, 0.9660 are the current levels, 0.9603 is the low, and 0.9669 is the high. 42 pips positive net change is seen. When Euro has dropped about 79 pips, CHF has gained only about 42 pips. So they are making a weak beginning false move on the downside in the case of Euro CHF. 1.3475, 1.3478 are the current level, 1.3441 is the low, 1.3528 is a high. The net change is 16 pips negative. So they could go closer to that of the low, 1.3441, and then subsequently gain the levels in the case of Euro CHF. So this is how we can find out whether they are handling the crosses or the majors. Now you come across they are handling the crosses. So obviously you have to look for some of the crosses wherein they are making the counter move and try to take the positions. Still use the hedging order to limit the risk or the stop in an optimal level of 30-40 pips and try to take the risk. Once the position makes profit, you try to keep stop at entry. In the case of crosses, 50 pips would be the ideal stop or the hedging order, and try to trade using these trading strategies. Then in the case of Canadian dollar, USD CAD, 1.0013, 1.0017 are the current levels, 0.9997. They just showed below that of the parity in the case of USD CAD during the early hours, and subsequently they gained the levels nominally. 1.0031 is the high, and 12 pips positive net change is seen. When Australian dollar showing about 25 pips negative net change, Canadian dollar is only showing about 11 pips positive net change. So they could hover around this parity for one more day. Then subsequently they could gain the levels in the case of Canadian dollar. Then Australian dollar is trading above that of the parity, 1.0131, 1.0134 the current levels, 1.0091 is the low, and 1.0166 is the high. 23 pips negative net change is seen, and still upside potency is there in the case of Australian dollar. 1.03 they might show, but before that any quick drop you can take buy positions. And in the case of the numerator currencies, whenever they are closer to the low and not breach the low for more than 30 minutes, you can try to take a buy position. Sorry. Then subsequently, when they gain the levels, you can keep stop at entry and then try to maximize the profit by trailing the stop. And whenever the new high or the high, when they come closer to the high, you can watch how they are handling the market. And if they breach the high and come down below that of the high in less than 30 minutes, understand they have made an upward stop and they want to drop again, so you can book profit. Or if they stay above that of the high for more than 30 minutes, understand they wanted to make an extended rise, then in that case, you can try to hold the position, trail up the stop, trailing stop can be moved up, then try to maximize the profit. You know very well, when they are making an extended move, then they can just gain the levels for 2 hours quickly, and during that time you can book profit. Use the trading strategy, which is very, very essential. There's no point in becoming bullish and bearish in the market alternatively, and that may really induce you to develop only the fear and not the trading ideas. So let me just focus the camera over that of the PowerPoint presentation. Now, expected market moves. During the Japanese session, volatile moves and the rise or the expected moves. And during the European session, again volatile moves and the rise are expected. And during the US session, volatile moves and the small firming up move could be seen as the week beginning move in the second week of November. And so you could come across more gains during that of the European, Japanese and the European session. And the US session, they could just firm up nominally. And tomorrow they are expected to open high and then straight gain further up. So then we will be able to understand what they have dropped today is a weak beginning false move. Then with regard to the initial lows and the highs, euro formed the low 1.3920 in the early hours of Japanese session, and still they are holding it. And it is currently the market is holding in the middle level or closer to that of the low 1.3956, 1.3958 level. The high is 1.4084, and they are expected to reach the high during that of the European session. And in the case of GBP, 1.6106 is the low, which is intact and currently trading around 1.6123. So closer to that of the low, and then the high is 1.6211. And if you see that net change in the case of GBP is 57 pips negative net change, and in the case of euro it is about 74 pips negative net change. So they had dropped GBP lesser when compared to that of euro in order to drop euro GBP. After the drop, they are making a small pullback in order to drop again euro GBP. For that, they are expected to gain the levels first in GBP using some trigger, and then followed by, you could see the rise in the case of euro USD. Then in the case of CHF, and they, after reaching the level of 0.99, they had dropped it again. Probably a lot of traders have lost the faith that it may not go up again to parity and things like that. But they are doing the wide range swings in the case of denominator currencies. So they are making a swing for about 300, 400 pips. Then subsequently they gain the level. Then people will think that, okay, it is going to drop and short. Then they will take it up. That's how they had done it in the case of numerator currencies. You know very well, euro was trading in a range and then made the upward breakout. So in the case of GBP also, many people were thinking that it does not have the strength to go up, and then they have been doing a range trading, and subsequently they have been trapped and they have gained the levels. So a similar situation is expected in the case of USD CHF, and now they are holding around 0.96 area, and they are expected to breach the high 0.9669 soon today, and they could gain more levels to start with, then followed by that euro could also gain. As a result, euro CHF is expected to go up. Then in the case of yen, 81.15 and 81.40 were the level, and they are intact, and only nominal negative net change is seen, and it could also gain the level later on. And Canadian dollar is doing a downward stop, and now 1.00, sorry, 0.9997, and they are just holding it short of 10 pips from that of the parity 1.0008, 1.0012, and when they breach the level, probably they may make one downward stop and to that level of 0.9978 or something like that, and then subsequently go above that of the high. And don't think that USD CAD could sustain below that of the parity for a longer time. And this is just to create the sentiment, and they are trying to act again, and they want the weak-minded people to liquidate the position, then subsequently gain the levels in the case of USD CAD. Australian dollar is the one which is trading firmly above that of the parity, and it is expected to make wild moves, and after reaching the level of 1.02, we should do more of a consolidation, either way swings in the case of Australian dollar. So still another 150 pips potency, rise potency is seen in the Australian dollar, and then subsequently you'll find it will lag behind when Euro and GBP are gaining more levels during this particular week. So 1.0091 is the low, which is intact, 1.0166 is the high, which is also intact, and they are currently, this Australian dollar is showing about 15 pips negative net change, and they could go below that of 1.01 and then go up. So you could see some action near that of the low in the case of Australian dollar, just induce the traders to sell as if it is come out of the parity and go below that of 1.00 and go reach the level of 0.99 and things like that. But subsequently they are expected to revisit the high. So these are all the expected market moves for today. Now let me minimize the PowerPoint presentation and focus the camera over that of the live market quote page and take up the questions which are asked here pertaining to that of the market. Now last week you would have noticed that when FOMC was announced and the quantitative easing 2, which they made a very big hype, and then subsequently gained in an euphoric way on the upside in the case of Euro and GBP when non-farm payroll was positive, and they just dropped it back, dumped it, and now people will be thinking that there is no big deal and only trade deficit etc. there, and people might be thinking that Euro and GBP could be in a range bound, but subsequently they are expected to gain the levels in an unassuming way. This is how they try to just discount all the moves what they have done on FOMC day, what they have moved, and they are simply discounted on Friday after the non-farm payroll release. And now you might be thinking that probably the sentiment might continue, that USD gaining sentiment might continue, but they are expected to reverse and show that USD could weaken in that process. And in this month and next month, USD is expected to weaken further, and in between you could come across this sort of sporadic moves, and such moves are good buy opportunities according to my algorithm. Then drop. Only Japanese session false move for this week beginning. Yeah, Japanese session as well as start of the US session, they could make a little bit of stop and then make the rise. So we could come across, now the Japanese session has shown the false move, and the start of the US session, they could make a false move and then gain the levels. And you could come across either way big stoppers today, below that of the low, or probably come closer to that of the low. They have set the low, and then go closer to that of the high, a false move, and then drop again during the start of the early US session, or late European and early US session. And you know, from today onwards, the US session timing is also altered. So instead of 13:30 GMT, US session will start by 14:30 GMT. So between 14 and 14:30 GMT will be the gap time. So then you come across the daylight system is switched off in both Europe and US. So you'll come across the standard timings of the market. Probably I'll show the slide pertaining to that. So from now on, for another 6 months, you will come across Japanese session 0030 to 0730 GMT. Then gap time is from 7:30 to 8 GMT. So after the switch off of the daylight system, you find that there is only a delay or the start of the European session by 8 GMT instead of 7:30 GMT. Only 30 minutes variation will be seen from that of the earlier timings, daylight saving system timings and the standard timing. But European session will straight away gain by 1 hour. So it will be between 14 and 14:30 GMT will be the gap time, and 14:30 to 21:30 will be the US session. So when there is a delay in this, probably you will come across the market will take a little bit time to settle down to that of the new system. So keep that in mind, and then subsequently they are expected to regularize the moves very quickly in the market. So from yesterday in US also the daylight system is saving system is off. So you'll find that US sessions will start by 14:30 GMT. Earlier you come across 12:30 GMT will be the data release time most of the occasion. Now here afterwards it will be 13:30 GMT the data release time. So similarly in the case of Europe, the shift will be happening with regard to the data release time. And those timings are being effectively used by the other players in order to rig the market, and they try to create the market sentiment and act against. Keep that in mind so that no sentiment will be permanent. Hence you come across surprise moves in the market. Let me again come back to that of the questions. Then what is expected in the case of USD CHF? Rob. USD CHF has made the downward move, and then it has gained nominally now during that of the Japanese session in tandem with that of the USD gaining moves shown by Euro and GBP. And you could come across that USD CHF slowly gaining and going above that of the high to start with, and then subsequently go back to that of 0.99 by today, tomorrow. Then you will come across mostly tomorrow. Then you could come across further gains above that in this particular week, and probably you could see parity and above very soon. By the time Canadian dollar will also be hovering around that of parity, and then you will find that Canadian dollar becomes stronger when compared to that of CHF. That sort of moves they will try to make it, then later on take up both upward. Then house. What is the low we can see in Euro and GBP today? According to my estimate, the lows have been set and they may not make any big drop. Probably, if needed, they may do one or two downward stop and for about 10-15 pips, but not a very big drop is expected. This is mainly to induce the long holders to liquidate the long and turn short technically so that they can trap and rise again. Because on Thursday and Friday after the data release, when they have been making the rise, many people thought that the market may not drop, so they have taken a higher level buy after doing the short covering. So obviously, no such higher level long holders are to be trapped or stopped out before making further rise, so that the players will get the least selling pressure during further rise. This part of the market move. Then Rob. I think you stated same when it was approaching close to parity some weeks ago. Do you think that USD CAD might stay below parity for a while? They may not stay USD CAD below parity for a longer time. Intraday they may show. I mean the USD CHF. USD CHF is expected to come out of parity very soon. Probably in this particular week. And rather, week beginning false move typically till Tuesday and sometimes till Wednesday. Yeah, that is earlier occasions when the volume was relatively low. But when the volume is further reduced, then the volatility becomes the order of the day. So you could come across the week beginning false move could be restricted only to a session or to a day, and then subsequently the intentional move could be revealed. Should we wait to go long instead of going long in today's Japanese session? See, you can choose for you can choose to take a buy position during the dip and try to keep stop at entry. In case if it is stopped out, understand that they wanted to swing around that of the low for one more day, then try to enter, watching that how exactly they are handling the lows. So it is hard to decide whether the low has been set and things like that. It is next to impossible for anybody to say that low is set and below that they will not drop, because if that sort of determination is possible in the market, then you know that even technically the strongest support can be breached and nobody guarantees. So, if you have a rigid mindset that way, then it will be difficult. You have to be flexible and watch the market and go along with it of the market, and always try to see that, read their intentions rather than what appears as true. When you read what appears as true, then you might be trapped. But if you try to read the hidden agenda of the players, then you will be able to wisely trade. Then JD. If somebody wants to trade in European or US session, he should look for European stop hunt and extended moves in association with a gap time to take a position. Yes. But how should one trade in Japanese, especially when the week beginning? So obviously, you know that you have to watch as soon as you open the trading platform. You have to watch for about 30 minutes and see that how exactly they are handling the market. As soon as you open the trading platform and try to grab a position, then you could come across a surprises. So allow them to settle or set the lows and the highs and see how they are handling the market, whether below that of the low, closer to that of the low or closer to that of the high. If they are trading closer to that of the low, are they breaching the low in next 30 minutes? If they are not breaching the low in next 30 minutes, understand that they have only done a stop hunt and they are not made an extended move of dropping it further. In case if they cut the low again, then wait for 2 hours and try to take the position. So these things are well explained in my trading system webinar, and I requested those who started taking forex trading to listen to that of the webinars. And you will also develop patience by listening to all 10 webinars. First of all, you have to develop patience to enter into the market and also exit out of the market without any bias. And that mindset you have to develop, only then you will be a successful trader. Otherwise, you might be either trapped with over trading, or you might be you may not be using any sort of money management technique of keeping a stop or keeping a hedging order. Then it becomes a costly experience. So nobody will be able to really say, okay, this is the low, afterwards they will not be able to breach, or this is the high, afterwards they will not be able to breach, and things like that. And market means volatile moves here afterwards. So obviously you have to take the trading strategy along with that of your forecast, along with that of the market reading, and limit the risk using the trading strategy. Simply the forecast alone cannot make you a successful trader. Then JAG. What do you think about USD CAD? USD CAD below that of the parity should be a good buy opportunity. Do you expect USD CHF to go higher in the next session? Yes, it is expected to go slowly higher. I'll repeat the market forecast. Do you think that Euro will be back to 1.43 in this week, and what is expected? Okay, as far as Euro is concerned, that it is currently trading around 1.3966, and you know that last week high is closer to that of 1.43, and it is expected to breach that particular level in this week, and they could go higher. And in the case of JPP also, they could go higher than that of 1.63 area in this particular week. Then with regard to Euro JPP, and you have seen that it went up to 0.89, from there it has dropped to 87 and then to 88 area, and now it has come to 0.86, and then you could come across the low being breached, and they may reach the level of 85 and swing around 85 to 86, then go to 84, 83, 82. That sort of moves you could see. So wide range swings followed by a big drop. So always keep it in mind, when they start making the wide range swings, then either they are expected to take it upward in a big way or a downward in a big way. It depends upon the currency pair. You have to read it properly. So in the case of euro, for example, they are just making a consolidation now, then they will start making wide range swing and then take it upward. In the case of CHF also, they had done the wide range consolidation for some time near that of the low, and they are expected to take it upward. And if you think that they are going to take it downward, then you have to read it properly. Then you will be able to understand. My algorithm says that it is expected to go up. Then Kate. Okay, I explained it. Then DDPT. Do you expect more downward stop in the case of USDN? I think the downward stop should be over in the case of USDN, and it should slowly gain to that level of 82. But the time it takes to reach such levels become prolonged, and it is a patient testing currency now. Then drop. Do you think that the cable has made the low for the day to go for the below? Cable, I think it was holding very firm on Friday when compared to that of euro, when euro was dropping freely, and currently it has made a drop of only about 36 pips when compared to that of 64 pips drop in the case of euro. Then you can understand that they do not want to drop cable now, and they could slowly gain the levels as a surprise. Normally, you know that the cable is the one which is to create the market sentiment on the downside. Now it is expected to make on the upside. So all the time they will not drop cable to just create the market sentiment. They had dropped it in tandem with that of euro, and now an upside gain could change the market sentiment, and suddenly everybody started buying euro afterwards. Then drop. Okay. Then JD. Do you think a clash of Bretton Woods and all the money that has been printed since then without any gold backing has a lot to do with that gold is doing now? See, if you try to relate it to that of gold alone with regard to the strength of the currency or a weakness of the currency, it may not be correct. Probably if we are all Midas, then we can relate it to only pertaining to gold. We cannot eat gold. No, we can only keep it as a reserve commodity because it has got a good convertibility with regard to any part of the world, but not outside the world. So obviously we need to understand that probably a sentiment might be created as if they are all related to gold, but predominant of the valuation should depend upon the resources and other parameters of the respective countries. So it is not the gold reserve alone. Okay, then when the countries are all keeping the gold reserve, keep in mind that in order to keep the currency stable, they are all keeping the gold reserve. What is the big deal? When they want to sell, who is going to buy? So we have to understand. But the sentiment might be created that way, and gold alone is not the only yardstick to measure the strength and weaknesses of the currencies. And whether they are able to get their next meal is also equally important. Then Arvin, do you expect any change in drop more than 100 pips below the second day initial low? I am not expecting a big drop in the case of euro. Then DDP, what is your view on Australian dollar? Do you sell it 1.0? I will not do sell and buy trades in the case of Australian dollar at the current moment, because you know very well after reaching all-time high they will try to consolidate for a longer time here. So if we try to do sell and buy trade, and only our patience will be tested. Whenever there is a quick drop, because we won't be knowing when they are going to make the quick drop. And if you calmly wait, whenever such quick drops happen, then probably you can pick it up. Then you can quickly see the profit. Now Australian dollar, they dropped it to 1.0091 and quickly gained the levels. So buy and sell trade will be much easier rather than sell and buy. Say, suppose if I take a sell position here and I do not know when they are going to drop it again to buy. No, only when the short covering is over and longs are built up, then they will try to drop. So that time, during the session start or session close, we won't be knowing it. They can make it as an upward stop and also. So when they are making a higher level consolidation, avoid doing sell and buy trade. No, it might appear that is the best way of trading, but the players also know very well that traders, after reaching all-time high in the case of gold, after reaching all-time high in the case of Australian dollar, people tend to go in for a sell and buy trade. When they heard of traders going for a sell and buy trade, the players know how to trap them. So why to become a victim for such act again and again in every currency whenever you come across the peaks are shown? Only when there is a great amount of short covering is seen, then you find the currencies reach new levels. So during the rise, the first set of people who come for buying at the higher level are the short sellers. Keep that in mind. Don't try to do that. Then DTP, do you see USD CHF above 0.99? Currently it is trading around 0.96. By tomorrow we should be able to see 0.99 area. Then JD. Do you know since 1971 no currency is gold backed and it's just paper which does not have any intrinsic value? Obviously there are other resources and there are other valuations to intrinsic valuations to other assets to evaluate the strength and weakness of the currencies. So it is not the gold alone to back all the currencies. And this scenario will come across world over, and it is an accepted scenario now. In Bolo. Okay, what is the forecast for USD INR? So in terms of other currencies, USD INR is also a regional currency like Singapore dollars. And so there you come across the strengthening and weakening alternatively, but the players are very, very clever and they try to handle the regional currencies to start with. Then they come to that of the majors, and you could come across USD INR trading around that of 44 to 45 region in this month and 46 in next month. So no more questions. Okay. Do you see USD CAD at 0.99 today before it rise? Yeah, there could be a possibility. They may make 9967 or 9976 as an intraday low and then go up. Let me go back to that of the PowerPoint presentation. So with regard to the market timings, so there is a standard time is being followed in all part of the world. So Japanese session will be from 0030 to 7:30 GMT. Then European session will be from 8 to 14 GMT. Then US session from today onwards will be from 14:30 to 21:30 GMT. So please make a note of shift in trading after the daylight system is switched off. Then in the case of the forecast for today, Japanese session moves, volatile moves, they have finished it and they are expected to gain the levels now. Then European section again, they are expected to make a little bit of volatile move as it is going, Euro and GBP are going to drop and then quickly gain the levels. During US session, they could make the small swings or slow volatile moves and then firm up. May not be a big rise and they will firm up during that of US session. And let me give the forecast for the other days of this particular week. And tomorrow, 9th of November, you could come across more gaining moves. So you will then understand that today's drop was a weak beginning false move. At Wednesday, normally you come across the wide range swings. Instead, they are expected to make one-sided rise in the case of Euro and GBP. on 10th Wednesday, 10th November. Then 11th, they're expected to make wide range swing moves. During the start of the session, they could drop, and then towards session close, they could spike up. That sort of moves could be seen. Then 12th, Friday, we could see that Euro and GBP are trading at new higher levels of the recent highs. What you've seen as a recent high on last week, and above that, they could be trading on Friday. So, with regard to the initial lows and the highs, the lows and the highs are not being breached in any of those currencies. So, CHF is 96.03. So, they have breached CHF, and yen they are not breached it, and Australian dollar also they are not breached the high or the low. Canadian dollar also they are not breached the high or the low. So you could come across the firming up move in the case of the numerator currencies, Euro and GBP, towards close of this particular session. Little bit of higher level volatile moves and further rise during that of the European session. So track the market carefully and try to take the positions. And whenever they are making drops, understand that they are only inducing the traders to liquidate the long and turn short, later on trap it. And the players have decided to gain the levels, irrespective of FOMC or non-farm payroll, whatever it is. They are expected to gain the levels for the year end. So from here they started, and they are expected to take it to much higher levels by year end. Keep that in mind and decide your trades accordingly. So I take this opportunity to thank everybody who have come here to listen to my talk, and also FX Trade for the kind provision of time slot. So see you again tomorrow, and we will review the market in relation to today. Then we will understand that how exactly they had done the big false move and trying to fool the traders, and then continue to gain the levels in the case of the numerator as well as denominator currencies. Thank you one and all. See you.